right, guys, we're back in the Corcoran Dwellings studio, and we want to cover 3 topics today. The first one's what?
First one is whether you should list today in the summer or should you wait for season.
Second one is, should you renovate to sell or base it in the price? Everybody's kind of different in that, so I'll give you some options there.
And the third thing we're going to talk about is where are the buyers coming from for the Sarasota area market.
You might be surprised. So,
Shelley, I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
Okay, so we get this question often, like, should I list my property here in the summertime, because right now we're almost in June, or should we wait for season? What's your opinion on that?
Generally, I say yes.
List now?
List now.
Okay. Because years ago, because we started a long time ago, there was a big wave, but now with all the people that have moved to Sarasota, it's much more constant. There's much more activity in the summertime. So why not list now? Now, if you had a place out in Longboat Key, would you wait for season or would you do it?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No, because there's more competition in the season.
Okay.
So when you're waiting a season like everybody else, there's also more so there's more competition, but there's also more buyers, but there's also a lot more looky-loo.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as serious. They're like, oh, we're here on vacation kind of a thing.
Sure.
Now, maybe this season it'll be a little bit different with the buyer-broker agreement. Not sure yet.
So take Longboat Key, for example. Properties sell all year round.
They do.
Now, there is obviously from, say, January to May, there's a lot more transactions.
Right. I mean, so what I explain to people is there's more traffic during season, but transactionally speaking, we still sell throughout the summer months.
We do, but it does dip. It does dip.
Yeah.
If you look at charts,
natural.
It does dip.
It's hotter than 80 here, so
if you had a house in Lakewood Ranch, or say a more family-oriented neighborhood, would you you'd listen in the summer? You'd see. There's no reason not to.
I would listen to the realtor that knows that market really well, and look to the RPR report, look to the list track report, look to the reporting, look to pricing, all of the same statistics and the factors that we would list no matter what time of year. So Florida, and specifically the Southwest area, is not as seasonal as it once was for many years now.
So the takeaway here is, let's do what's best for the person, right?
Always.
It doesn't, I mean, it's
always,
things can, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So we'll cut that out. So the takeaway here is that you need to do what's best for you.
Yeah, and everybody's timing varies based on life circumstances, deaths, divorces, family, health-wise. Like there's a lot of different factors that go into why people sell. And, we can make it work no matter the time of year. As seasoned veteran agents, we can make it work no matter the time of year, honestly. Even though like August, September might not be ideal generally, I would say the rest of the year is great to sell. Right. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So renovate to sell or not?
I think it depends on the house. It depends on how bad it is, how dated it is. I think let's take roof, for example.
That's a biggie.
Depending on the price range of the house, if it's a $5 million house, obviously you want the roof. But if it's, say, a $400,000 house, not everyone has $50,000 for a roof.
That's true.
Okay, so to make it more marketable, you probably want to put a new roof on if you have the money.
Right.
Other stuff like, should I remodel the kitchen, the bathrooms, the flooring, all that other stuff? Here's the problem: is when you do all of that, you're doing it to your tastes, and the buyer may not like your tastes. On the other hand, there are a lot of buyers out there that don't have vision, and they want it done. They don't want to go through the hassle.
Right.
I think to make a house more marketable, it should be remodeled. I think that's true, but not everyone wants to go through that hassle. Here's the problem: is they say, okay, well, I'll adjust in the price, but it's never enough. It's like, okay, well, if it costs $100,000 to remodel the house, they want to drop it like $20,000. Well,
I'm going through that on one right now, and it's been a challenge.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll drop the price $20,000. Well, $20,000 is not enough for the condition of this house.
And the roof, let's say a roof and a remodel, it needs a lot of things, and a lot of buyers, it's really difficult for them to look past, even when you do like virtual staging to some effect inside. They get in there and they're just like overwhelmed they start adding up in their head, like, what is this going to cost?
Yeah. And once you open things up, it's another, the costs go up. So, it's really tough. It really depends on the client.
It depends on the location too, and the price range, I'll say too, and the desirability, like supply and demand at the time.
Yeah. at that time.
But the roof is a difficult one because you can't get past the insurance.
Yeah.
Even if you're self-insuring, people still want to insure it. So like the roof, we have solutions around that. So I get asked a lot about the roof when it relates to insurance. Like for example, I have one that's under $500,000 and needs remodel inside, and it's got an older roof. And so now the question is, can I get insurance, or is it at the end of its useful life? And the insurance companies are not looking, they're frowning upon that, right? And so the buyers are reluctant, but you can still close on it in some cases, even if it's at the very end of its useful life. As long as you have a document with the roofer saying it'll be done within 30 days,
Sure.
they'll still bind insurance and you can close. So we've done this many, many times, but that the roof is a hard one to get around.
Yeah. Well, you need a good roof.
Either you do it, either the seller does it, or they understand,
or they drop the price,
or they understand they'll give a major credit at closing. And then the
buyer
can do it after.
If you think about it, it's probably not fair for the buyer to just give a whole new brand new roof to the buyer. The buyer gets the benefit. The buyer gets the benefit for the next 30 years, 20 years at the seller's expense. So it's a little unrealistic for the buyer to expect a brand new roof.
Well, typically what I've negotiated in the past is a fraction of it, either to like 1/3 or half of it is typically about generally closer to half of it. So sellers, just be prepared for that.
Okay, so where are our buyers coming from for this market?
I think people are surprised when I actually show them the reports. So we get what's called a list track report. I think you get the same thing, right? So every listing's different. About half of them are coming from Florida.
Half?
Yeah.
Really?
Isn't that weird?
So I've heard that Miami, Orlando, Tampa are big feeder markets for Sarasota. And then obviously we get the Midwest, Chicago, Ohio, and it changes constantly. But New York, obviously, California. But lately we're seeing a lot within the state of Florida.
I mean, I have one under contract right now. It's on Longboat Key, and the buyer's Orlando, and we get plenty of that. And the sellers are always like, whoa, I thought they were all coming from New York. Yeah. But it's not. Like, you're eliminating about half the buyers are coming from our own state.
Remember back in the day when we were at another company together, and they were always like, we're going to market it to Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Very exotic.
And it's like, it's Bob from Iowa that's buying this plan.
We sold, Andrew and I had a listing together, and we actually sold it to someone who lived on the street, who's renting on the street. We door knocked, and he was literally in your backyard. And so the buyers could be coming right from our backyard, and you're ignoring the people that are right here. I mean, if you think about it, like on the islands and just in Lakewood Ranch or whatever, people end up finding a neighborhood or an area or an island that they really like, and they end up upgrading, downsizing, and kind of moving around on that island or that territory. And it's just very, very common. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Sellers have a lot of questions. Some people are on the fence about selling versus buying first because they don't want to be homeless, so to speak. So it's an ever-evolving business and ever-changing, and we're here for it. And been around several markets. I know you have too. So
it helps to have a realtor, right?
I mean,
an experienced realtor.
Yeah, I would listen. I guess if I wasn't in the business, would I know any different? Maybe not.
Okay, so 3 topics today: feeder market. A lot of them coming from Florida.
Yep.
Should you remodel or should you just leave it alone and lower the price? Depends on the situation. It's a case-by-case basis.
And should you sell in the summertime? Usually it's yes.
Usually I think you should sell when it's best for you. Try not to time the market.
100%.
Because we don't know what's going to happen 4 months from now.
And I tell every buyer and seller the same thing. Like, most buyers actually don't need to buy, but sellers need to sell, I find, right? That's just life. Yeah. But no matter what, we're here for it. So if you need to reach me, I can be reached on my cell, 941-544-7690. My email is shaylatwit@gmail.com. And
Mark Rasmussen, Corcoran Dwellings, cell phone 941-800-5000. Email is mr@corcorandwellings.com. Thanks, Shayla.